I see you. I see you, brother. I see you, brother. I see you. I see you. I appreciate you coming through. I appreciate you coming through. So I'm gonna be honest. This video was unexpected. Okay, it was unexpected. It was just something that I decided to do randomly. I happened to be laying down and browsing through the internet and figure out what I wanted to talk about. Right, I was just laying down and then I realized Friday is Juma. Okay, it's Juma. So I said, well, what do I want to talk about? And I said, well, since it's Black History Month, why not talk about Black Muslim? Now on this channel, I've been talking about Black Muslims here and there, especially during the time of Ramadan. So if you guys check out my archives, I've been getting into that. But this just happened to be something that was so random, like out the blue. All right, so tonight's topic is Sufi Abdul Hamid. So I'm gonna give you a little bit background on who he is, right? So he was a Muslim. However, he wasn't your average Muslim. Let's put it like that. He was known to be in the relationship with Madam Stephanie St. Clair. All right. So this was during a time in Harlem, New York, when they had the whole, it was like during the time of the Prohibition era, and also when they were running the lottery, illegal lottery, etc. It was a lot that was going on then. So, he was a street hustler, all of that. Okay. But he was also a Muslim. And I'm going to get into his background. But make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share the channel. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it. Yes, I see you on my heel. I see you. I see you. All right, let's go ahead and get into the subject. All right. So if y'all can see this, cool. All right. So let's get started. This comes from HarlemWorldMagazine.com. All right. So that's a picture of Sufi Abdul Hamid. Okay, this is a picture of him. So he was born Eugene Brown on January the 6th of 1903 in Lowell, Massachusetts. All right, and he was an African American religious and labor leader, and among the first African converts to Islam, accused of anti-Semitism. He is best known for his role in business boycotts in Harlem in the early 1930s that were designated to draw attention to discriminatory employment practices of white, mainly Jewish business owners. Okay. Okay, and that's him right there in the courtroom. And it says in Chicago, he styled himself Bishop Kashankin, a Buddhist cleric, then moved to New York in 1932, taking up residence in Harlem. Despite converting to Islam, he probably had no connection with the Nation of Islam. He eventually styled himself His Holiness Bishop Amarul al-Mumin Sufi A. Hamid, and his press man claimed that he had been born in Egypt beneath the shadow of a pyramid. He sported a mustache and dressed flamboyantly, wearing a Nazi-style military shirt, gold-lined cape, purple turban, and a dagger in his belt. So during the Great Depression, unemployment among blacks in Harlem reached 50%. Hamid initiated an effort to encourage white business owners in Harlem to hire black workers, often picketing stores and giving speeches on street corners. All right. So Hamid especially target Jewish store owners and encouraged black shoppers to boycott certain stores that did not hire blacks, intimidating them into hiring workers from his own private labor union. His usual modus operandi was to collect $1 dues from each unemployed black worker who wanted a job at a store before starting his pressure campaign to get them hired. And eventually, he became wealthy. He was openly anti-Semitic, giving speeches from step ladders on 125th Street. He declared himself the only man who could stop the Jews, accusing them of spreading filth and disease and calling on his followers to tear out the tongue of any Jew they met. He boasted that he was the only one fit to carry on the war against the Jews and vowed an open, bloody war against the Jews who are much worse than all other whites. This caused him to be known as the Black Hitler. So you gotta be careful because nowadays you can't say too much about the Jewish people or the Jewish community because they really bind together. And they will be quick to call somebody out for being anti-Semitic, especially if it's a black person. Farrakhan has been called anti-Semitic. Dr. Khalid Muhammad have been called anti-Semitic. And the list goes on. So one thing about the Jewish community, they gonna come together and they're going to make sure they stand up and speak out. But majority of them have control over media and the music industry. So it's almost like you can't really say anything about anybody who's in that position of power. But you can say whatever you want about your own people in a very derogatory manner when it comes to music or when it comes to the movies, right? But you better not say anything about the other race, or otherwise you're going to be labeled as something very offensive to where you will lose your status, your reputation, and you'll be looked at as a criminal. And that was the case with Sufi Abdul Hamid. He boycotted the Jewish businesses because they wouldn't hire black people. Now, around this time, this was Great Depression. And the Great Depression really hit it hard on the black community the most. So the whole thing is, if you're not going to hire black people, we should not shop with you. We should not even be dealing with you. As a matter of fact, we see you as the opposition. And that's what Hamid's whole argument was. These people are the opposition. They don't want to hire us. They don't want to deal with us. So the hell with them. That was his attitude. All right, let's go further down. All right, so after Jewish store owners met with New York Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, Hamid was arrested but later released. His union changed names many times, from the Negro Industrial and Clerical Alliance to the Afro-American Federation of Labor. Adam claimed Powell briefly joined forces with him in labor protests and store boycotts, and broke ranks when his rhetoric moved beyond targeting whites and Jews to light-skinned blacks. Violent clashes with rival black units led to Hamid's arrest for stabbing Hamid Snipes, a former follower of Marcus Garvey who became a communist labor union organizer. He allegedly had a role in organizing the Harlem Riot of 1935, Harlem's first race riot, which destroyed 200 businesses and cost $2 million in damage. Eventually, the courts barred Hamid from his picketing, forcing him to focus his energies on his mosque, the Universal Holy Temple of Tranquility, where he dubbed himself as a bishop, causing his nickname to change from Black Hitler to the Black Mufti. So he was married to Stephanie St. Clair, who ran Harlem's number racket after she shot him. Well, I be damned. And he divorced her and married candle shop owner and fortune teller Dorothy Hamid, who styled herself Madame Futan and claimed to be Asian. Well, this woman don't look no Asian to me. Do she look Asian to y'all? She ain't look Asian to me. Hey, interesting. Well, maybe she got some Asian in her, but she do look like she mixed with black African descent. Yeah, that's her right there. She don't look fully Asian to me. All right, so let's go further down. By 1938, Hamid had his own private airplane and a white secretary, attempting to assuage followers that the luxury of owning it was mitigated by keeping it low on fuel. He died in an airplane crash while piloting his own plane. His secretary survived with only a broken elbow. After his death, his widow attempted to keep the mosque going by claiming nightly visitation by him from beyond the grave, predicting that he would return in 60 days, which didn't come true. Not long after, the mosque became a dance hall featuring a one-legged dancer. Today, the site at 103 Morningside Avenue is home of St. Luke's Baptist Church. Okay. So that's all the information on this page. Now, you can argue that he was a cult leader, and maybe he was, right? And he was looking for ways to make a come up, make a profit. Many will argue that. But remember, it was a lot of them at that time period. If you talking about the cult leaders of today, look at study the history on the cult leaders back in the 20s and the 30s. They were on the rise. They were at a higher number. All right, so I want to show you guys a newspaper article real quick. So, rarenewspaper.com. Timothy Hughes, rare and early newspaper, right? So here it is. According to the newspaper, it says Sufi Abdul Hamid, Negro cult leader who was known as the Harlem Hitler. Plane crash fatal to Harlem Hitler. Pilot of Negro Bishop also is dead. His white girl aide hurt on Long Island. Damn, they was they was messy for that. I ain't even gonna care. They was messy. But anyways, it says Sufi Abdul Hamid, Negro cult leader who was known as the Harlem Hitler, was killed yesterday with an aviation pilot when his plane ran out of gasoline and crashed in full view of thousands of Sunday afternoon motorists near the crowded Southern State Parkway north of Whiting. Trying to see. Ooh, hold on. All right. So Miss K. Price, the Sufi's white secretary and press agent, was seriously injured in the crash. The anti-Semitic Negro bishop and his secretary took off from Roosevelt Field yesterday pilot by Frank Burkhardt of Hampstead and the 9-year-old J5 Casino monoplane that the Sufi the Sufi bought 10 days ago. Over Billmore, the plane seemed to be in trouble, and it was apparent that the pilot was seeking a place to land. Damn. Mm. Oh, this is interesting. If you look down, it says rival of Father Divine. Okay. It says the death of the Sufi ended a career that had affected Harlem more deeply than that of any cult leader, not excluding Father Divine, whose idea of fried chicken and gravy heavens the Sufi is suspected of having borrowed. So I didn't know that there was a rivalry between him and Father Divine. All right. So this is a picture of the pilot, and this is the picture of Abdul Hamid. Okay. All right. So here's some more pictures. And it looked like it was a protest. Well, that looked like Father Divine right there. Yeah, that was Father Divine. Okay. And it looked like it was a march going on during that time period or some type of parade. Right. All right. So let's find out some more information. So this come from New York Digital Collection. So this is from New York Public Library Digital Collection. All right. Let's see what can we find. You know, it's so interesting that I find so many information. And right here it says Sufi Abdul Hamid, the Black Hitler of Harlem. Privately, Sufi Abdul Hamid claimed to have been born in Africa, becoming an American citizen some 18 or 20 years later. A persistent rumor has it that he was really born in the South and migrated north to become, in later years, the public character whom the world knows. It said the story of his life as told to his inmates and then unavoidably and successfully whisper about, thereby adding to his romantic stature, is that he was born in the Lower Sudan where he had a pet goat named Jahedi or Jahida, and led the carefree communal life of an average little African boy. There he romped with his pet goat with the three curls in his horns between the between the sticks upon which all of the time house in the village were erected until disaster as sudden and complete as disaster can be only in fabulous Africa overtook him. He and his cousin had gone to a nearby village to visit with friends and other relatives, taking along Jahida, of course, and were playing and screaming with customary childish glee when some message caused the menfolk of the village to leave them. Let me zoom this up. Okay. Try to. Zoom this up. All right. It says here, when some message caused the men folk of the village to lead them with only the women behind to carry on. The children had hardly noticed their departure. When evening was nearing, and it was the time that the children returned to their own village, little Sufi, his cousin, and the well loved goat started on their way home. They came to know from the top of which they should have been able to see their long led village. All right. So there were only ashes, smoldering ruins. The only signs of life being the white chickens picking jerkily as they walked with seemingly distasteful high steps among the scattered corpse that strewed the wreckage. 314 people, the entire clan had been wiped out, men, women, and children, and Sufi was alone in the world. In such a way did Sufi meet for the first time the far famed British method of appeasement. This scurrilous, the result of which were so tragically apparent, was his introduction to and graduation from the was it Kurdistan Wars. Hmm. So I don't have to go any further detail in this, but basically, according to this information, this was the story that he told to others that he was born in Africa, right? And he was given a fictitious biography about his life when technically, I mean, we all come from Africa, believe it or not. We all come from Africa as far as our descendants is concerned, as far as our bloodline. We all come from Africa. But he was basically saying that he was born there. He was never born in America, which according to the information is really not true. But this is what he was telling people. Okay. So his story kind of sounds like those that we are familiar with. Okay. Um, However, he had brought inspiration to others who later on followed after him. So I'm going to pull up a name. Hmm. I'm gonna put up a name. I'm trying to. All right, so it was said to be that Sheikh Daoud Ahmed Fazl was like one of his followers. So let me pull up that information. So here's a story about Sheikh Daoud Ahmed Fazl. All right, so he migrated to America on June the 6th of 1913 and founded the Islamic Mission of America, right? All right, so based on this information, it said that he migrated to America on June the 6th, 1913 and founded the Islamic Mission of America. Over 100 years later, The mission remained one of the most influential American Islamic organizations to ever exist. Sheikh Dawood established the State Street Mosque in Brooklyn as his base of operations, starting in the 1940s, where he remained director of the mission until he passed away in 1980s. Okay. And it says Imam Muhammad Ali K joined Sheikh Dawood as his partner starting in 1949, thereby dedicating his life to Sheikh Dawood's vision, taking over the mission in 1980. Following Sheikh Dawood's death in 1991, Imam Muhammad Ali K relocated the base of operation for Sheikh Dawood's mission from Brooklyn to his final resting place in Corona, Queens. Although the State Street Mosque is still in operation today under different leadership from Queens, Sheikh Dawood's mission continued its struggles to abolish the psychological slavery that has afflicted so many. This is not for profit contribution by Sheikh Dawood and the mission to all humanity since its founding. All right, so that's him. Okay, and this is his this is the leader after him. And this is Malcolm X. After he left the nation. This is Muhammad Ali. This is Warfdeen Muhammad. Okay. So let me look up the relationship he had with let me look up the relationship that he had with Abdul Hamid. All right, so here's the information that I was able to come up with. So the article is called African and African American Muslim Present from Early New York to the Present by Imam Al-Hajj Talib Abdul Rashid. Go down here. All right, so it says Sufi Abdul Hamid was the first Muslim northern urban activist to achieve success in the modern era. He was a self-determined labor movement pioneer who organized African American workers in both Chicago and New York City in the early to the late 1930s. Okay. Let's see what else we can find. Okay, it says those familiar with the great legacy of the Nation of Islam in New York City know that it peaked between the early 1960s and the 1970s. So Harlem produced the nation's two most dynamic ministers, Malcolm X and Louis Farrakhan. However, perhaps many people would be surprised to learn of the foundational work laid by African American Sunni Muslim in New York City and state. All right. So let's see. It goes on to say in 1928, 2 years before the beginning of the Nation of Islam, the State Street Mosque, still extant now known as Masjid Dawood, was founded in Brooklyn, New York by the late Sheikh Dawood Ahmed Fazl. To date, it is New York's oldest existing Muslim congregation and edifice. So Muhammad al-Hari has described this visionary leader as a devout Muslim of Caribbean and Moroccan background who was born in 1891 and came to the United States as a young man. In 1920, he married his wife Khadijah. She became a dutiful aide to his Islamic work, which reigned from his founder of the Islamic Propagation Center of America in 1928 at 143 State Street in Brooklyn, New York, to his establishment of the Muslim village Medina Al Salam near Fisk, was it Fishkill? Yeah, Fishkill, New York in 1934. And it lasted until 1942. He was always a Muslim pioneer in all in his endeavors. Sheikh Dawood founded the Islamic Missionary Society of America in 1934. All right, so the giants who walk amongst men. From left, that's the Sufi, there's Marcus Garvey, there's Sheikh Dawood Achman with Malcolm X, okay, and then Malcolm X was in Africa. All right. So, anyways, you guys can look up this article. It's African and African American Muslim prison from early New York to the present by Imam Al Hajj Talib Abdul Rashid. So let's see what information we can also find. Okay, so let's see. Here's a book on Amazon. Here's a book on Amazon by Sheikh Dawood. It's called Islam, the True Faith, the Religion of Humanity, and the works of Hajj Sheikh Dawood Ahmed Fazl. Right? Hmm. It says Sheikh Dawood taught Islam from the Great Depression until the 70s as a religion that was true light of the civil rights movement. Okay, so this father of American Islam paved the road for Dur Dar ul Islam, Jamil Al-Amin, the Fakara, Imam Isa, and the Nuwapians, and the Brooklyn's Masjid Farouk through his Islamic mission to America. This work, Islam, the true faith, the religion of humanity, is the first collected work from his pen. Right? So, so basically, both Sheikh Dawood and Sufi Abdul Hamid like was one of the first African Americans to make Islam very popular in New York City during that time period. Okay, so they made Islam very popular. Um, Islam was already present. However, these two brothers made it what it is today. So if it wasn't for the popularity, Islam would not have gained its prominence in places like New York. However, a lot of credit is given to the nation, right? And to Malcolm X, rightfully so. But before Malcolm and the nation, it was these two gentlemen that gave more popularity to the Sunni Islamic religion. And let's say they just made it very popular in the black community in New York. They made it very popular in the black community in New York. So if you go up north, right, you will see a lot of Islamic practices in Detroit, in Cleveland, Philadelphia, especially, New Jersey, New York City, and also Chicago and St. Louis. Islam is very popular and very prominent in those regions. And also it's very popular in the South. But yeah, Islam in the African American community has its popularity in the North for the most part. But I'm gonna go ahead and log off of here. But before I go, I want to share some books with you guys so you guys can look up the information, read on anything that's dealing with African American history and Islam. Um, so this book right here is called The Spirits of Black Folk, Sages Through Ages by Adinyika Muhammad Mendes. So I recommend you guys get this book if you haven't. Um, this book basically goes into the hadith and it talks about the black Muslims. It mentions about Bilal, who was considered as one of the caliph and the companion of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was one of the first to call the adhan. So in this book, it mentions that, but it also mentions basically like how black people play a important role in the Islamic culture. So get this book if you get a chance. And this book right here doesn't deal with so much about Islam, but it just deals about African culture and how it is pretty much how much basically how much African culture is combined in the African Americans community, right? Due to slavery and the creation that took place. So this book right here is called For Every Season, The Complete Guide to African American Celebration, Traditional to Contemporary, Naming Ceremonies, Holidays, Weddings, Family Reunions by Barbara Eklo. All right. So if you guys don't have this book, I recommend it. Okay. So I'm gonna hold this book up for y'all. Um, and the website that I recommend people to go and get books for a very decent price is thriftbookstores.com. Thriftbookstores.com. So if you go to thriftbooks.com, you will get your books for a great price. And that's where I get most of my books from. And also you can get your books from Amazon. But I recommend getting your books from Thrift Books. Whatever you can't find on Amazon, 9 times out of 10 you can find it on the other website. So I'll make sure I post it in the comment section for you guys. So let me go ahead and do that now. Uh-oh. All right, so I posted up the website in the comment section. So if you guys want to ever look for some books, some good quality books that is pretty cheap, go to that website. All right. But I'm going to post up the books again. And that's it. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Shout out to Norman from Toronto. Shout out to Toronto in the building. Yes. Shout out to Lion Times, baby. And as yes told you, shout out to you. Of course, you're always coming through. All right. So I'm gonna keep you guys posted. Till next time, peace and power elevation. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging off, saying peace. Thank you. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Be safe. Until next time.